I think there were not many people who understood just how broad his interests were and how supportive he was of an astonishingly wide range. After years of keeping the Queen's private thoughts close to her heart, Princess Anne finally revealed a powerful message about Kate Middleton, and it left William and King Charles absolutely speechless. Most people thought they knew how the future of the British monarchy would unfold. First King Charles, then Prince William. Everything neat, orderly, and traditional as usual. That's how it was supposed to be. But deep inside Buckingham Palace, late one foggy London night, something happened that would change everything. And almost no one outside the palace walls knew. It started with Princess Anne. She had always been the steady one, the one who showed up, stayed quiet, and never chased headlines. People admired her for it, trusted her for it, but Anne had been carrying something heavy, something she couldn't put down any longer. It was a secret, one she hadn't asked for, but couldn't ignore. A secret from her mother, Queen Elizabeth II, written down carefully before she passed away. A final wish, not shared with courtiers, not announced to the public, something just for Anne to know. And when the time was right, reveal. What did this letter say? And how will it affect the royal family? Keep watching to find out. The Queen's message did not mention Charles. It didn't even mention William. Instead, it named someone else. Someone unexpected. Someone the Queen believed could save the future of the crown. Catherine, the Princess of Wales. The palace was quiet that night. Outside, the fog wrapped around the iron gates. Inside, behind thick walls and long hallways, Anne made her choice and decided that was the perfect time to speak up. She called for King Charles and Prince William to meet her. No staff, no advisors, just the three of them. The room they met in was old and serious. Heavy curtains, dark wood, portraits of kings and queens watching from the walls. Anne didn't make a speech. She simply unfolded a letter, worn soft from where she had held it over and over, and placed it on the table. Charles picked it up first. His hands shook slightly. William leaned forward, frowning, reading every word twice. No one spoke. The clock on the mantel ticked loudly in the silence. Outside, the city slept, unaware. The Queen's letter was clear. She saw Catherine not just as a future queen consort, but as the future of the monarchy itself. She believed the survival of the crown didn't rest with a king, but with a woman the people already loved. Someone who had earned their trust, not just inherited it. At first, Charles pushed back. His voice broke the silence. "This isn't how it's done," he said, almost to himself. His face looked tired, older somehow. William said nothing. He just stared at the letter, his hands clenching and unclenching in his lap. Anne didn't argue. She wasn't there to fight. She was there because the Queen had trusted her to be the one to tell them. And because, deep down, Anne believed it too. Catherine was different. She didn't just fit into the old system. She made people believe in it again. William finally spoke, his voice low. "Why didn't she tell us before?" Anne gave a small, sad smile. "Maybe she didn't think you were ready to hear it." They sat there for a long time, the three of them, breathing the same heavy air, each knowing that whatever they decided next would change everything. Meanwhile, across the palace, Catherine sat in a different part of the palace that night. Unaware. She had just tucked George, Charlotte, and Louis into bed. She sat by a window, a cup of tea cooling beside her, looking out at the fog. She felt restless but didn't know why. She didn't know that upstairs, the course of her life, and the future of the monarchy was being rewritten. She had never chased power. She had only ever tried to do the job quietly, properly. She smiled when she needed to smile, listened when it was her turn to listen, and protected her children fiercely. The Queen had seen that. had believed that was exactly what the future needed. So back in the meeting room, the letter lay between them like a live thing. Anne finally stood up, smoothing her skirt. She didn't wait for Charles or William to agree. She knew what her mother would have wanted. The truth told, the risk taken. "Whatever we decide," she said softly, "the world is changing. We can either change with it or be left behind." No one answered. But in the silence, a decision started to take root. Quietly, stubbornly, like the first crack of light at dawn. The monarchy the world thought it knew was already shifting. Not with a grand speech, not with fanfare, but with a single night, a whispered truth, and a woman who didn't even know she was about to be called into history. What happened next will shock you. So don't go anywhere. The following morning came slowly over London, heavy and gray. When the light finally spilled across the city, it found Buckingham Palace changed forever. Inside, in a private room deep within the palace, a secret meeting of senior royals and trusted advisors was about to begin. It had been rushed together, but nothing about it felt routine. The air buzzed with nerves and questions no one dared ask. Princess Anne was the first to walk in. She didn't look like a rebel. She looked like a general carrying out a final mission. In her hand, a simple leather folder. Inside it, a letter that could shake the very walls around them. King Charles came next. He wore a mask of calm, but the tension in his face told a different story. And last came Prince William. Steady and regal, though his eyes showed the fire burning underneath. This was the moment everything would change forever. Now, Anne didn't waste a second. She placed the folder on the big mahogany table and said in a voice that allowed no argument, "This is Her Majesty's final wish. Not mine, not Charles, not William's, hers." Everyone leaned in, reading the Queen's neat, careful handwriting. Her message was clear. Catherine, not born royal, but shaped by spirit and strength, was the future. It wasn't about blood anymore. It was about heart, about survival. The Queen hadn't tried to officially change the line of succession. She knew it wasn't that simple. But she had made her hopes crystal clear. Catherine wasn't just to support the next king. She was meant to be queen in her own right. The room exploded in whispers, shock, fear, anger. King Charles slammed his hand on the table, his voice shaking. "This is madness. I thought last night was a joke. Succession can't just be rewritten." Anne held his stare, calm and firm. Mother wasn't confused. She was certain. Then William spoke, his voice low but raw. "And what about me? What happens to everything I was raised to be?" Anne's face softened. "You're still vital. You're still needed. But for the monarchy to survive, it must change. Mother saw that. She wanted us to see it too." William looked down, fists clenched. It felt like a betrayal, but deep inside, he knew. He had seen Catherine face storms. He could barely endure himself. He had watched the people fall in love with her. She didn't seek the spotlight found her, and she never let it burn her. Maybe, he thought bitterly, she had been the real queen all along. Now the world went on as if nothing had changed. No announcements were made. No headlines screamed the truth. But inside, a quiet storm was growing. Catherine, unaware of the full drama, kept doing what she always did, visiting hospitals, comforting children, fighting for mental health causes. Every handshake, every kind word stitched her tighter into the future the Queen had imagined. Still, the pressure inside Buckingham Palace grew. Rumors leaked. Tabloids whispered of secret meetings and royal unrest. And Anne, steady as a rock, held the line. She knew there was no going back. It was only a matter of time before the world caught up to the truth. For centuries, Buckingham Palace had stood as a symbol of unbreakable tradition. But after Queen Elizabeth's death, tiny cracks started to show. A few moments ago, Buckingham Palace announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. King Charles III wore the crown now, but it didn't fit him the same way it had fit her. His reign was expected, but not embraced. People respected the monarchy, but many weren't sure they still loved it. Charles, with all his passions and opinions, struggled to be the still, steady symbol his mother had been. The scars of his past, his messy divorce, his long road with Camilla never fully healed in the public's mind. The crown shone, but the man beneath it often stumbled. Now, Prince William, on the other hand, carried a heavy weight. On paper, he was the future. Young, relatable, royal, but every move he made was watched. Every mistake was magnified. Even his marriage to Catherine, a shining light for the family, was a double-edged sword. The more people loved her, the harder it was for William to shine on his own. And then there was Harry, firing accusations from across the Atlantic, deepening wounds that hadn't even begun to heal. William knew the monarchy was standing on shaky ground. He could feel it every single day. You see, for a moment after the Queen's death, the nation came together in grief. But that unity didn't last. Polls showed more young people questioning whether the monarchy even mattered anymore. In places like Australia and the Caribbean, calls to break ties with the crown grew louder. The family could feel it. The tide was turning. The old loyalty was slipping away, and they couldn't survive on tradition alone. They needed to prove their worth all over again. And deep down, they knew. No press conference, no public relations campaign could save them. They needed someone real, someone the people could believe in, someone like Catherine. And somehow, Queen Elizabeth had seen it coming. Long before the world noticed the cracks, she had made her choice, quietly, without fanfare. She trusted that when the time came, those who truly loved the monarchy would follow her lead. She had seen the future, and it had Catherine's face. Not because of birthright, but because of hope. And this is where it starts to get interesting. Keep watching to find out what happened next. Now, despite this revelation from Amy, something else disturbed the royal family. And that was that people were no longer supporting the royal family as they once had. King Charles found no peace. Night after night, he sat awake, poring over old history books, looking for answers from kings who had ruled through chaos. Prince William carried his fear differently. It sat in his chest like a stone, heavy and unmoving, especially when he looked at his children's bright, trusting eyes. He wanted to believe he was preparing them for a future of service and honor. But what if that future never came? Catherine, though, met the moment in her own way, with quiet acceptance. She saw what was happening. She knew the world was moving forward, whether the palace was ready or not. It was her calm, her resilience, her lack of hunger for power that made her the one nobody had expected. But maybe the one, the crown, needed most. She never chased the crown, and maybe that's exactly why. Now it was chasing her. Now, to the outside world, the monarchy's facade remained intact. Ceremonies, elegant dinners, and polished royal photos. But beneath the surface, an unexpected shift was underway. A slow-burning fault line was building pressure, threatening to crack the palace's foundations. At the heart of it all lay a truth too dangerous for anyone to utter, because the monarchy's perfect image was weaker than people wanted to say. And now, the House of Windsor, built over centuries, stood on the edge, and the world watched, holding its breath. Would it fall? Or would it rise again? Not through bloodlines or laws, but through the quiet strength of a woman who never asked for a crown, but might wear it better than anyone before her? Let's find out. So, as the saying goes, nothing stays hidden under the sun forever. The Queen's wish eventually reached those outside the palace, thanks to some palace maids who had been observing and overhearing everything happening inside. However, not everyone supported the Queen's decision. Some argued that it was wrong for Catherine to take over while her husband, the rightful heir, was still present. They also claimed that Catherine spent most of her time caring for children and lacked any experience in politics. On the other hand, another group supported the Queen's wish, believing that she knew what was best. This debate led people to start digging into Catherine's life, and what they uncovered will shock you. So, when they started digging, they discovered that Catherine Elizabeth Middleton was born on January 9, 1982, at the Royal Berkshire Hospital in Reading. She didn't grow up in castles or wear crowns, but her family lived comfortably and valued hard work. Her father, Micah Middleton, was a flight dispatcher, and her mother, Carol, had once worked as a flight attendant. On her father's side, the family had deep roots in British society, even hosting royals in the early 1900s. On her mother's side, her ancestors were coal miners, giving Catherine a rare balance between tradition and humility. When Catherine was just 2 years old, her family moved to Amman, Jordan, where her father worked for British Airways. There, she attended an English-speaking nursery school, learning early how to adapt to new cultures. By 1986, they returned to England and settled in Berkshire. Catherine, now 4, was enrolled at St. Andrew's School, where she quickly showed signs of independence and maturity. Later, she began part-time boarding, learning how to take care of herself at a young age. In 1987, something important happened. Catherine's mother, Carol, started a mail-order party supplies business called Party Pieces. What began as a small venture grew into a thriving company, providing Catherine and her siblings with excellent educational opportunities. But even more important, it taught Catherine the value of patience, resilience, and building something meaningful from the ground up. By 1995, the Middleton family moved to Bucklebury, a quiet village surrounded by nature. Catherine switched schools, eventually enrolling at Marlborough College, where she really came into her own. In Marlborough, she wasn't just another student. She became known for her leadership, especially as the captain of the girls' field hockey team. During her time there, Kate Middleton also completed the demanding Gold Duke of Edinburgh Award, showing she was determined, hardworking, and humble. Around this time, she also underwent minor surgery to remove a lump on her head, but returned quietly to her studies without drama. After finishing school, Catherine Middleton faced a major decision. She had been accepted to the University of Edinburgh, but chose instead to take a gap year to explore and grow. First, she traveled to Florence, studying art at the British Institute. Then volunteered in Chile through Raleigh International, working on community projects and trekking through tough landscapes. She even worked as a deckhand at the busy port of Southampton, never shying away from hard, unglamorous work. Eventually, she enrolled at the University of St. Andrews in Scotland, first studying psychology, then switching to art history. Catherine joined the Lumsden Club, organizing charity events and serving local communities. To help with expenses, she took a part-time job as a waitress, showing again that she wasn't afraid of hard work or getting her hands dirty. At St. Andrews, something life-changing happened. Catherine met Prince William. They became close friends, sharing a love of art history. By 2002, their friendship blossomed into romance after they moved into a house together with other friends. Despite their growing relationship, they kept a low profile, avoiding public attention. But by 2004, the world caught on after they were photographed vacationing together in Switzerland. Their journey wasn't without bumps. In 2007, after years under intense media pressure, Kate and Prince William briefly broke up. Catherine later admitted it was a painful time, but it made her stronger. She handled the split with quiet dignity and grew even more confident. After a few months apart, they rekindled their relationship, stronger than ever. During their long courtship, Catherine faced public scrutiny, even earning the nickname Weighty Katie from tabloids. But she never lashed out. She stayed calm, gracious, and focused on her own path. Then, in November 2010, the couple announced their engagement, and Catherine began preparing for royal life, officially going back to using her full name. On April 29, 2011, Catherine married Prince William in a ceremony watched around the world. She became the Duchess of Cambridge, stepping into a life of duty and public service. But even with all the royal expectations, Catherine remained herself, grounded, kind, and full of quiet strength. In the years that followed, she and William became the image of a modern royal couple. Together, they welcomed 3 children: Prince George in 2013, Princess Charlotte in 2015, and Prince Louis in 2018. Each arrival bringing joy not just to the royal family, but to the world. Through it all, Catherine balanced motherhood, royal duties, and charity work with grace. Catherine's story showed that becoming royal wasn't about wearing crowns. It was about heart, hard work, and staying true to who you are. But that was not all. As Catherine's role in the royal family grew, Catherine began to shine not just as a figure of grace, but as a passionate force for good. She didn't simply appear at events for the sake of tradition. She genuinely immersed herself in causes that mattered deeply to her. Her charity work became a defining part of her identity, proving she had found the perfect balance between royal duty and personal compassion. One of her most touching acts happened quietly in 2018. Without seeking any attention, Catherine donated 7 inches of her hair to the Little Princess Trust, a charity that creates wigs for children undergoing cancer treatment. Inspired by her hairdresser, Joey Wheeler, she made the decision privately, a reminder that the most heartfelt acts of kindness are often the ones done away from the spotlight. It was a simple but powerful gesture, echoing the quiet generosity she'd shown for years. Now, many thought all of that was for the camera. But it wasn't, because long before Catherine married Prince William, Catherine was already deeply involved in charity work. In 2007, Kate Middleton organized a photography exhibition to raise funds for UNICEF, and later hosted a charity roller disco that raised $100,000 for the Oxford Children's Hospital and mental health initiatives. Her early visits to hospices and work with sick children left a lasting impression on her, shaping her future as a royal dedicated to causes involving children and mental health. After becoming the Duchess of Cambridge, Catherine's commitment only grew stronger. Just months after their wedding, she and William set up a charitable gift fund instead of accepting wedding presents, directing support to 26 organizations. So, when these findings were brought to light, some of the people who had criticized the Queen's decision found themselves admiring Catherine. But the story didn't end there. The next question on the minds of royal watchers was this: how would William feel seeing his wife take something he had fought so hard for? William faced his own crucible. The revelations about Catherine had left a wound he didn't know how to heal. He loved her fiercely, admired her strength and kindness more than he could express. But the knowledge that even his grandmother had seen Catherine, and not him, as the future of the monarchy gnawed at the edges of his confidence. He questioned everything. Was he enough? Had he been too cautious, too reserved, too burdened by the impossible expectations he had carried since childhood? He looked at Catherine differently now. Not with resentment, but with awe and a certain fearful reverence. She had not asked for this. She had simply been herself. And somehow that had been enough to capture not only the heart of a nation, but also the faith of a queen who had witnessed generations of monarchs rise and fall. But in all of this, one thing stood out: Catherine's response. Many had expected her to simply say yes or no to the Queen's wish. So when she was asked whether she was ready to take on the responsibility, her answer shocked even King Charles and William. She stated calmly and firmly that although it is the desire of many to lead the monarchy, it is also the desire of every wife to keep peace within her family. Therefore, she needed time to think about it. So, although Catherine is yet to give a clear answer, one thing her response made certain is that the Queen made the right choice, choosing someone who could balance the heavy demands of the crown with the delicate needs of the royal family. So, what are your thoughts on Catherine's response? How do you interpret King Charles and William's reactions? And most importantly, how do you view the Queen's decision? Share your opinions with us in the comment section. If you enjoyed the video, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, click the following video on your screen, and you will enjoy it.